sun is on me, on my face.
Now, Candace, where are you located?
I'm in Manhattan.
What street?
I am on Edgecombe, which nobody knows about,
Okay.
because it's a very short street.
Nice.
But the cross street is 155th Street.
Okay. I was saying my son is at 57th, and I don't know the cross street. He just moved there, so I don't have it memorized yet.
57th, that has to be either far east or far west, because of Central, it's like the middle of, I guess he could live in the middle. There was some lady that, Carnegie Hall's on 57th. There was some lady that for years, literally 40, 50 years, had an apartment right over Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow.
Where she was paying what used to be rent, not rent stabilized, but rent controlled. They don't have it anymore. And I think she was paying like $47 a month or something.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous amount of money. And they finally, and there was a big battle because they wanted to get rid of her.
Yeah.
And they took her to court, and it took years, so they finally got rid of her.
Wow.
But it took them 3 or 4 years to get her out of there.
Well, he's West 57th.
West,
424 West 57th.
West side is the best side.
What was the address?
424 West.
Okay, yeah, so he's probably over by 9th Avenue.
Okay. I haven't been there yet. His old apartment was up on 93rd, and he had to be out of there at the end of July. So they went home from here July 1st to start the move, and we didn't get down there to help him. So we'll probably go in the fall, but he says it's pretty quiet down there right now.
Well, everything's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
You know, it's not so quiet up where I am because it's more residential. But when you get into Midtown,
yes,
it's
like a ghost town, he said.
Evenings and weekends are quiet.
In some areas it is. I was down on 34th Street last Friday. It was pretty busy. There were a lot of people.
Okay.
I walked over to Herald Square.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people sitting. The Herald Square has like a pedestrian park where they've got tables and chairs set up. Everybody was sitting in the chairs. There was a lot of foot traffic. People were walking to the stores. It didn't look a whole lot different than it did before all of this.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, well, it is good. Yeah, because the city needs that commerce.
Right.
All right, let's get started.
Okay.
We're just going to ask everyone, we want to be very interactive. So, so everyone can, if you have a question, please put it on the chat and we will, I will stop my Q&A and we'll get to your Q&As. And if everyone can put themselves on mute, except Rhonda and I, and then we will get started. Okay, is everybody good? Everybody's on mute? Let me see. Okay, so everyone, please welcome Rhonda Penders. She is co-founder and president of the Wild Rose Press that was founded in 2006 by Rhonda and R.J. Morris, and both of them are published authors. And their whole premise behind the publishing house is that they felt that there would be a better, friendlier way to get books published. Okay, so Rhonda, welcome.
Thank you.
And please tell us a little bit about yourself. And let's start with, how are you and how is, our Wild Rose Press family, coping during this pandemic?
So we're doing fine. As I said to a few people when I came on board today, we were virtual right from the beginning. Our company is, we don't have a brick and mortar building. I have an office here in my home in upstate New York, and RJ has one in North Carolina. So we're the North and the South. And we have editors all across the country. We have 3 in Canada, 1 in the UK. Our artists are the same. They're spread across the country. Some of our production team. We do our print books here in Rochester, so we print them locally, which I really like because I can keep, jobs right here in New York, which is wonderful. But we haven't had any hiccups. Our printer shut down for maybe 3 weeks, and then they got the word that they could become essential, or they were essential, so they opened back up. So really, other than that little hiccup, and that was in late March, we really haven't noticed anything different. People are writing. They are writing murder mysteries and erotic. So that is what is coming out of COVID, is they want to kill somebody after they have sex with them. So that's been our interesting take on the queries. The company's doing okay. You know, we hit our stride back in 2012. We were really going crazy, and Amazon didn't like that at all, and they knocked us down, and we've never really gotten back up to where we were, but we're holding our own. You know, everything's steady. We do the best we can. Amazon's the enemy we all sleep with. You have to have them, even though you don't like them. And so we just keep on with new distributors, different distributors, just trying to make sure that we stay relevant and that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. Other than that, I keep saying it's just business as usual. We just keep on doing what we've been doing during the COVID. I think for some editors, maybe it's been even a good thing because they haven't had to go to the day job. So they've had some more time to work on editing and do some of the other things, because a lot of our editors do juggle a couple different careers. I myself am a bookkeeper for several clients, so it's been nice during the COVID to just stay here and not have to go to their offices. That's been kind of fun. RJ's, she's a tech for Corning. She's been an IT person for them for her whole career, and she's always worked from home, so she's never, missed a beat. But we're doing okay. Submissions are coming in, stories are going out. Authors are still complaining, authors are happy, authors aren't happy.
Tell us about your genres, your roses. Tell us about your garden.
Most of you that are familiar with Wild Rose Press know that we started as romance only in 2006. And the reason we did that was the fact that RJ and I were both published romance authors. And that's kind of what we knew, write what you know, work in what you know. And our editors were romance specialists. So it took until 2013 before we agreed to publish anything else. And we knew the minute we took something else, which women's fiction was the main thing that people were bugging us about, we'd have to take all kinds of fiction. So that opened the door to science fiction, historical fiction, more paranormal, the cozy mysteries. And that was actually a good move. We really opened up our gates to writers we never would have been able to work with or help before that. So since 2013, we've published in all fiction genres. We still don't do cookbooks, we don't do memoirs, we don't do poetry. We do a limited amount of children's books. We've probably done 6. And up until recently, the reason for that was the formatting is very difficult, but we found a guy who has a program called InDesign, which is what you need for these children's books. And we've been working with him a little bit, and we're hoping that in the next few months to be able to come out with some more of the beautiful children's storybooks, which will be fun.
Wonderful. And how does one submit to you?
Everything's electronic, of course. It's through email. On our website, there's a whole submission page, and the address is queryus@thewildrosepress.com. And on our submission page, you'll see there's 2 different parts of the publishing house. So we have the traditional side where it's been the same since we opened the doors, where you submit and we take care of everything. And then we did open up the Write Advice a couple years ago, which is helping authors that want to self-publish, but they don't know where to go for formatting. They don't know where to go to get an editor. They don't know where to go to get an artist. They can go there and have a one-stop shop, and totally a la carte. If they come to me and say, I just need someone to format this for me, they can do that. We can format it. They can pay for that, and they move on. If they want us to do the whole book packaging, we can do that too. So that's a whole different little section for self-published authors, but the traditional side is still there, and that's where people submit through.
And you haven't had any, I know that, they keep going back and forth about the vanity press and not vanity press, and, but now what you're doing is you're really providing more services for authors, because, traditional publishing is not cutting it anymore.
Right. So the self-help side, if you would, is again, it's an answer to questions we had from authors who they want to self-publish, but they have no idea how to get an editor that they trust. They have no idea how to get a cover artist, or how do you distribute? How do you do this? How do you do that? So we opened it up and we said, you know, we don't really push it. We don't go out there and force it down people's throats, but if you want it, it's there. And it's a different section, a different division, if you would. It's a different contract. And we actually have had a couple authors that have used it, and they've had several of their books come out. You know, they're writers, they're not marketing, they're not production. They just want to write and have someone else, you know, take care of everything, but they don't want to be rejected.
Mhm. So going back to the traditional publishing.
Yeah.
So once I submit my book in the query email in the submission line, so how long does it take before I get an answer? And
So
how long after that, you know, once you accept my book, you know, how long after that is it out, you know,
And
in
published.
the market?
So the first part is the query. So when you query us, you're going to send a synopsis, you're going to send a query note, and you're going to send the first 5 pages of your manuscript. That's going to come into the Query Us mailbox. It's going to go to a senior editor who is going to assign it to an editor. And within 45 days, you should hear from that editor as to whether she wants to see more or whether it's something that's not going to work for us. I will say that probably 90% of the time we do ask to see more because we all know that you cannot write a synopsis. It is very few people in this world that can write a good synopsis. So, you know, we don't usually reject at the synopsis stage. We usually get the partial. And then once we get the partial, it can take about 60 days for you to hear back as to whether we want it or it's not going to work for us. And then when you're talking about contract and publication, you're going down a whole nother world because, you know, if your manuscript comes in and it's as clean as it possibly can be and the editor maybe doesn't have a full list, you know, you could move through the system, you know, 6 to 9 months. But if your manuscript needs work and your editor has a lot of other projects and you're working with her around that, you know, it can take up to a year.
Now, is this just ebooks or ebooks in print?
So our books, all of our books, once they're 45,000 words, then it goes to print. It's print on demand.
Okay. And what about foreign rights and stuff like that? Do you do that too?
We take all the rights in all formats for the period of the contract, which is 5 years. We do have a couple agents that we do work with for foreign rights. It's not something we go after heavily. There's really not a lot there right now, but we do have some books published in Serbia, of all places. We have some books published in France. We had several in Japan. Those rights have come back to us. We've had some in Greece, in Poland. So we have had a few.
And what about agented, unagented?
It doesn't matter. You know, agents, love them or hate them, they're trying to negotiate the best deal for their writers, which is wonderful. But when you're publishing with a small house like Wild Rose Press, there's nothing to negotiate. You know, there's no advances. You know, the contract is the contract. There's really nothing for them to do for you. So I do have probably a dozen authors who have agents, and basically they're just sharing their royalties with their agent.
Okay, I've been chatting. Does anybody want to ask a direct question? We'll pause. Want to unmute yourselves and ask a question? Jean?
Yeah. You say you take historical fiction, historical romance fiction?
We do, we do.
Do you take only like British, only UK historical romance fiction? Do you take any that takes place in the US?
Of course, yeah. We have several divisions in the historical team. We have, it used to be called the English Tea Rose. Now I think it's just called Tea Rose, and that has to do with your regencies. And then we have the American Rose, which takes place on American soil, and that would cover your Civil War, your Revolutionary Wars, any of that. We also have a vintage line, which covers, I believe, the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to, I believe, 2000.
Oh, 2000 is considered historical?
2000, if you believe it, is 20 years ago, people, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that is considered
Modern
vintage.
historical.
Yes. So we do take them from all over the different, and we get some Vikings and we get colonialists and, you know, all sorts of historical. The caution with the historical team, there's two things. One, they are insane about historical accuracy. And the other part is we do not work with real figures. So you can't write George Washington's love affairs from George Washington's standpoint. They don't like that.
But George Washington can be a secondary figure.
Sure, he can be in the story. He can even say a couple sentences, but you can't write his story. You know, he fell in love with Drew Barrymore or something silly.
Right.
We have a question here about what about gay romances?
Yeah,
Diverse voices?
Yep. So all of that, we used to only take gay romance in the Scarlet line, the erotic line. And the reason for that, years ago, I'm going back, is because I didn't have editors in the other lines that could edit male or female or whatever you want to do. But now I do. So across all the lines, it doesn't matter. You know, the romance is the romance is the story. And so we take it across all lines. And obviously, you know, here's the thing about diversified, how do I want to say this properly? Stories of color, stories with characters that aren't just white Caucasian. Way back in the beginning of the company, we made the decision not to break those out as a separate line because we never saw them as separate. We always saw it as a romance. So we said, why would we have, you know, African-American romance and Asian romance and all these other minorities or different romances when it's all romance to us? So right or wrong, we started that back in 2006, and we haven't changed our stand on that.
No, that's wonderful. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think that you should pull them out. It's a romance, it's a romance.
Yep.
Whatever color it is, it's a romance.
We do try to make the covers accurate. I mean, we don't put, an Asian couple on a romance that's supposed to be African-American. We try to be true to the couple. But, like I said, we don't have different lines for them at all.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. Now, I saw on your site that you do have something called One Scoop or Two for short stories.
So we have a lot of series this year coming out, and there's a couple exciting ones. And One Scoop or Two, I'll back up one step. Every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, we have a chat on our website. It's an open chat for all writers. And we've been doing this since we opened the company. Every single Tuesday at 8 o'clock. There's only 2 Tuesdays in the year we don't do it, Christmas week and 4th of July week. But these chats can be anything from marketing to craft to just open communication like we're doing here. And in one of these chats, we got talking one day about, we had a Candy Heart series, a Valentine's Day Candy Heart series. They wanted to do something for the summer. We were talking about beach reads. And so One Scoop or Two came out of that chat. I said, how about if we do a series? And this chat is with all authors and writers. This is not a staff thing. This is my authors and I brainstorming. We tell the editors later what we've concocted in these chats. And I said, what about ice cream? You know, every story would have to do with ice cream. And so One Scoop or Two came out to be the title of this series, and they're short stories. They are not in print right now, but next year we'll probably do some anthologies with them and put those in print. Every story, no matter what genre it's in, whether it's historical or modern day or paranormal, has to have ice cream in it, whether they work in an ice cream stand or they sell it or whatever. And authors have taken off and run with it. They just love it. They just love it. And then I told them the title had to be an ice cream flavor. So we've got, vanilla with sprinkles. We've got, love with a twist. I mean, there's a whole bunch of wonderful gelato stories that they've come up with that have been fabulous.
I love the pralines.
Yes, Praline Dreams came out of this. So there's a lot of those. That's our ice cream series. Those stories will release through the middle of September this year. Then we'll stop the releases and then start again in April. And then they'll go all through next summer. And then we'll probably stop it at that point. They'll still be for sale, but I don't know if we'll take submissions past next year because it gives time for something new. And speaking of new, for historical writers, for the first time, we have a series just for them called Wilder, W-Y-L-D-E-R. Wilder is a town in the Old West, I believe Wyoming. And it's all going to be centered around this town, all the stories. So everybody has to know the town, know the Bible, so to speak, of the town, the characters, and write for that series. And those are going to be in ebook and print.
So do you provide like the town Bible and people have to?
So we have a committee that started, and the committee was made up of 2 editors and 2 writers, and they put together this little town, and they put together the bar and the sheriff and all that. And then it was put out to anybody interested that wanted to write for this town. You got a copy of this map, if you would, and then you'd say, well, I think I'm going to write the story of the stagecoach guy and the, saloon girl. So you had to give a synopsis of what you were writing, and if it was approved, then you were kind of locked into those characters. And we've done this with a lot of series. We did Lobster Cove this way. We did Class of '85 this way. We did Dearborn Inn is still going on. That's a Vermont series. We've done a lot of series, and it's been really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And the authors promote for each other. So if you're part of that little group that's writing in that series, you do some blog hops, you do some, Facebook things together, and you promote for each other.
Mm-hmm. Now, talking about series,
Mhm.
I know with this one you have different authors writing different parts
Right.
of the stories of the town. But in your own, your authors,
Mhm.
some of them have series.
Right.
Now,
So an author
Do
can
you
have
find, do you find that series are better sellers than just a single title?
I would say yes. I don't have the statistics to back me up, but I know just from people I've talked to, I love series. I mean, I read series all the time. I love nothing more than when I go back to the same town that an author has created for me. And so a lot of our authors do that. They write series. Readers want to find all the books from that series. The question I get asked all the time is, what if I have one book with one publisher and I want to pitch the 3rd book to you? I don't think it matters, because I don't think readers go looking for the publisher of the book. They're looking for the book. So, when you're on Amazon, you're looking for the book. It doesn't matter to you as a reader who published it.
Mm-hmm.
So your series can be across different publishers. That's fine.
Okay, yeah. No, because, we all have our favorite series, and, we
Right.
go back because either the town, the head heroine, the head couple or everything, but yes, they're favorites, and you don't want to let go. 'Cause
No.
when you read a book and it's really, really good, you don't want to let go.
Well, and it's fun when you go back and you visit those characters again, because it's like old hometown week. My really, really good friend Jody Thomas is phenomenal at this in writing for the Western contemporaries, and she does a fantastic job with small town Texas.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Here's a question regarding series across different publishers. Here's a question I have. But might there not be some issues regarding artwork, for example, cover art? Because is it the case often that with one publisher might use a specific artist for the cover, but then you might have another artist for the cover? So how do you negotiate that whole issue of making sure you have the same look across the series, even though the publishers might be different?
So I would just say, if you have 2 different publishers, your second publisher should be able to look at your first book and create something similar. Obviously, it's not going to be the same, but something in the same vein. Maybe it's the same colors, maybe it's the same font, just similar. You're not going to be able to have the exact pictures. You're not going to have the exact same artist, but you could get something that's going to be so that you can tell it's the same series.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thanks.
Sure.
Michael, you want to ask your question?
First of all, there we go. Yeah, I had submitted to Wild Rose Press way back in February
Okay.
and was rejected, but I'm not holding it against you guys. It happens, it's part of the game. But since then, I had my manuscript undergone a whole slew of changes. I hired this new editor, and she actually took me out to the woodshed with this book. But I made all the proper changes, except
Okay.
for one. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to accept a kind of like a do-over?
Oh, yes, it's called revise and resubmit, that's all. So what I would do, Michael, is I would go right back, either go back to the editor that rejected you, if you still have that person's email.
Yes, I do.
And so I would go back to her and say, just like you told me, exactly what you told me, would you be interested in looking at it again? If she says she would rather not, then you can go to the Query Us, as if you never came to us before, and say that. Say, you know, I talked to Jane Smith. She had rejected this back in February. I've since redone this. She doesn't have time right now to look at it again. I would like another editor to review it.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Normally that editor will probably look at it again, but if she's really swamped and can't do it, then you can send it back to us, and that's not a problem.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sure.
So Rhonda, you had talked about your weekly chats for authors. I also saw that you have weekly chats on grammar and punctuation.
So this summer we're doing summer school, and we did this a couple summers ago. One of our editors, who's a retired English teacher, did a 4-part grammar series we affectionately called Where Does the Comma Go? So for 4 weeks in August, we shut down the public chat, and people signed up for this class. They paid $5, and it's on everything from where the comma goes to, I think last night was dangling participles or something, or all these things that I do not know anything about. She does these chats, and they're an hour long, and the people that pay for the chat also get a copy of the transcript. So you don't have to try to take notes while you're listening to the chat. And it's been very popular. It was popular 2 years ago when we did it. It's kind of a nice summer thing. And all authors, myself included, can certainly use a grammar redo and learn some things. So it's been good. And we don't charge for our other chats. We only charge for this one because what we want to do is give all the money to her for taking her time to put these classes together.
And are these your authors who write for you, or just authors in general who can participate?
Anybody, it's a wide open to the public. And
It's
the
about to end.
link is on our website under events, I believe.
Yes, but it's about to end, right? You only have 2 more
We
weeks.
have 1 more week to go, but if people pay for the 4 weeks, you can get the transcripts from the first 3 with no problem.
Oh,
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah, I attended last night's chat because it was on awkward sentences,
Okay.
and
Rhonda,
I keep getting that my sentence is too long, so I found it very worthwhile.
Thank you, Ursula. Thank you.
Rhonda, I would
Arthur?
be happy to. I will be happy to talk with anyone about grammar, punctuation, spelling, because that's what I do for a living, and I
Oh,
have
very
a PhD
nice.
in it. So anyway, but that's neither here nor there. My interesting thing is about LGBT stuff. When I went on your website and I said, you know, what do you have for gay stuff? The link, the search engine didn't give me anything. And it didn't seem you had anything that's
We
interesting.
don't have a lot. I mean, in the Scarlet line we do, and I know that in Dearborn Inn, which is our Vermont series, we do have a male-male romance coming out this fall. But, you know, I kind of get called on the carpet for this a lot, Arthur, to be honest, but I can't publish what I don't have. So if people aren't submitting to me, then I can't reject or publish.
Well,
And
the
so
interesting
maybe-
thing is that I'm very new at this, and friends of mine are like, hey, this is neat. You know, we're like, they're gay romances. But the publishers are not interested. And the story I told Jean today was, you know, when I went to the RWA meeting last July in the big hotel in New York City, I said, where's the gay table? Where's the African American table? Where's the diversity? Where's the transgender table? They're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, why doesn't this exist? So it's this really ignored thing, you know. So I just didn't see anything on your website that would encourage anyone to write for you or to be published by you, or
So
you know.
what should I, you know, it's a challenge to know what to do and when you're looking like you're just jumping on the bandwagon. So if I suddenly, you know, turn my website into this whole thing, you know, I don't know how to change the site that would welcome.
Well, I think it's not welcoming. I don't think it's anything. It's just saying, here's what we're interested in.
Right.
You know, we have a space for this. You know.
Yes.
And I think
Okay.
if you're gay, you're lesbian, you're marginalized, otherwise you're transgendered.
Mhm.
Just say, we have a space for this. We haven't, and be honest, you know, we haven't done this.
Well,
We're-
we have a lot of stories in the Scarlet line. I'll be honest. In the erotic line, they were doing, different romances from way back when. So there's a lot in that line. I don't have them in the other lines. If they've come in at all, they have not been well done. This one that I'm talking about, which is in Dearborn Inn, which is our bed and breakfast in Vermont, our receptionist, Jarrett, is a gay man, and he's going to have his romance. And I read it because I wanted to make sure it was done properly, because this series is one that I started this series, I created Jarrett. I wanted to make sure he had a proper romance.
Right.
It's a really good story, and it will be out in one of our non-erotic lines. But
Right.
I will take a look at the site and see if there's anything we can do to at least have a link or something to show.
No,
that
well, I'm
those stories.
being completely selfish and just saying, where can I submit stuff?
Yes.
And when I look at these websites of these well-established publishers,
Mhm.
I'm like, you interested in this at all? And
Yep.
it's like,
We are.
people have asterisks on the thing. Oh yeah, it's gay friendly. It's this friendly. It's
Okay.
diverse friendly. Or
Sure.
not.
I mean, and actually, in my honest opinion, I think you should be submitting to everyone, because for anyone to have to put something out there that says we are gay friendly,
Mm-hmm.
that's almost like saying, hey, we accept diverse romance. Everyone should be accepting it, and you should not have to ask, you just submit it. Because like Rhonda says, with the diverse romance,
Right,
it's not
because
acceptable.
everyone is diverse and everyone is, the thing is, I did a study of school teachers. 95% of school teachers don't believe they're prejudiced in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, but
So
like
no one's
Rhonda,
prejudiced. No one's prejudiced. No one's biased. Everyone's for equality.
but
But it
like
doesn't work that way in
Rhonda
real
said, they do not separate their lines out, so they do not have a separate line for Black characters. They do not have a separate line for Asian characters. My book is in the vintage, which is for everyone who writes in a certain time period. So it's not, oh, I write in the Black vintage line, I write in the vintage line.
But maybe what I can do, Ursula, is maybe I can have something in our submission guidelines that says that we welcome stories of all kinds, of all romances, and see if I can make sure it's in there and check that
Well,
out.
I think the way to put it is, I've got a novel that I'm putting out. It's two gay guys. Your son is on 57th Street. They're on 52nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like 5 blocks south. Would this be a venue for me to publish?
Sure.
And there's nothing
Send
that
it.
indicates.
Send
No,
it to me.
nothing
Send
to
it to me.
indicate that would be
Okay.
in your website. I'm just saying, in your website, there's
I'm gonna
nothing
look
to.
at it, Arthur. I'm gonna look at it, and I'm gonna see what I can do. And short of putting rainbows on the front page, I'm going to go to the submission guideline page and make sure that there's something in there that says we welcome these stories, so that you.
And by the way, I'm not a wag rainbow.
No,
flag,
I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right, fine. Great.
Okay.
Okay, so now Rhonda, you had told us that it's business as usual. You're still accepting submissions, you're
Right.
still publishing, you're still doing everything now, and
Right.
everybody's thinking sex and murder.
Sex and murder. That's it. And I did
We're
get
all for it.
two quarantine COVID stories, and I was like, nope, too soon. No, thank you. Not ready.
That's what I was gonna ask you. You think it's too soon for a
Too
COVID
soon.
romance?
Well, here's the thing with COVID romance, you're dating the story immediately. So, if you're a contemporary writer, the last thing you want to do is date that story. How many times you pick up a book and you read someone's going to a payphone and you're like, well, this wasn't written recently. You don't want a story that's supposed to happen. Contemporary is now. There's no year on it. It's just now. Now is 3 years from now if you read it, or now is now. And the minute you put COVID-19 in there, you have slammed us into 2020. Now, that's not to say that if somebody were to write a really good COVID-19 story and it had it wasn't just being locked down in quarantine and I fell in love with my neighbor thing, but it had, you know, a real thriller side to it maybe, or it had something. Not saying we wouldn't look at it, but you've got to be very careful when you're putting the quarantine into a story because you're going to date it. And people 3-4 years from now are going to know you wrote it right now. And maybe that's okay, but that's not my definition of contemporary. That becomes historical. I think there's going to be some great stories coming out of it. I do. I think there's going to be some phenomenal thrillers, really. But as far, and even maybe some romances, you know, who knows? But I personally, our company, we're kind of just chuckling right now about it, like, too soon, people.
You're waiting for that vaccine. I understand.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm too interested in my Dearborn Inn and my ice cream series and my Wilder, you know, the things that are taking up our attention there.
Okay, very good. Now, I read a lot about you. So another thing that I read about you is that you give a workshop called Where Does the Story Start?
Yep.
So can you tell us about that?
So I do this workshop at actual conferences, but I've also done it in a chat. And it's telling authors, writers, a lot of times you're starting your story in the wrong place. So, you know, the old adage, you know, get rid of the first 2 chapters and that's where your story starts is usually pretty right on, especially for new authors. They want to give us everything in the first 2 chapters, every single thing these characters ever did, thought, saw, ate. And we don't need that. We need to be dropped into the action and we need to get the story going, especially in today's publishing world. They don't like that long buildup. You want to be slammed into the story. So in a workshop, what I do is I take volunteers and I take their first 2 pages and I kind of very nicely critique them and say, this is where your story really starts. You don't need any of this, or this is phenomenal. You did the right thing. It's really good. When I do it in a chat, I kind of just give examples of stories that start in the right place and some stories that just don't. I will say they did get me once in North Carolina. They put up a James Patterson story and I just ripped it to pieces, not knowing it was his.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, it was very cute.
And then you have another one about how to lose an editor in 10 days.
Yeah, so years ago, I wrote this really cute, I thought it was cute, parody about comparing querying a publisher with going on a blind date. And I sort of did this, this little, I don't know what you want to call it, this little talk. And on one side, she's on a blind date, but she's also queried a publisher and how the two kind of go hand in hand. And then all the things she does wrong with the boyfriend to lose him. And then all the things she does wrong with the editor to really tick her editor off. And of course, it always has a happy ending at the end, but it's just kind of a cute tongue-in-cheek thing. When you start to think about blind dates and querying a publisher, there's a lot of similarities.
Yes, there are. Anna wrote down, Anna, do you want to read what you wrote down in the chat?
Oh, I just wanted to sort of mention that providing, I agree with Ursula about, not segregating sort of diverse books into separate lines, but providing pairing information on the website about the books you've already published would help authors and readers know what is in them. Because I don't read very much, straight romance these days.
Okay.
I read mostly MM, and I have friends who read mostly FF, and so I can't tell from the website which of these books, like some, like I think with like, sort of other kinds of books, you can sometimes tell from the cover, but not always. A man chest there's plenty of man chest covers for straight romance and gay romance, so that's not always the way to tell. But providing pairing information for the books helps.
So a link maybe to our stories that are different romances is what you're saying. Am I right? Links when you say pairing?
I think that there are and I think that I've seen, and it may be too much for bigger publishers, but providing in the description, this is so either links of like these are all the MM books we have, these are all the FF books we have, or in the description of the book, this is an MF book, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. This is an MM book, blah, 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 whatever, you know, like.
Yeah, no, this is good feedback. And I'll, RJ is the web mistress, and she takes things under advisement, if you can read between the lines. So I will bring these things to her attention and see what we can do. We also work within the confines of our website and what we can link to and what we can't. But I definitely can see the point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because you know, you have your website for years and years and years, and how often do you actually look at your website, your own website anymore? You know, usually I'm looking at it because I can't find something, and then I start screaming, you know, why can't I find this? And she'll say, well, I moved it to here. So let me talk to her about some of these things that you and Arthur brought up. I think they're good points. You know, we've been doing this a long time, and sometimes we need to be freshened and educated. So I'm happy. I'm always open to ideas and new thoughts about it, new ways of looking at it. So wonderful. Got a note.
No,
We'll see
I
what
mean,
she
your
does with it.
website is very colorful, and I love how it's a garden. And,
It used to be
and it's
pink.
always
I
in
liked the
bloom.
pink.
Yes.
I lost my pink. We rebranded about 5 years ago when we kind of were turning off a lot of men because they didn't like all the pink and the girly and the roses. And I would get the same feedback from men saying, I didn't know you took, you know, these stories because it's all about, you know, Harlequin romances. And I'm like, well, we're not. We have thrillers and we have a lot of male authors. So we did a kind of a rebranding, tried to make it a little bit more male friendly. I lost a lot of my frilly girly roses and things, but I think it looks okay. I think it's still doing all right.
What's the ratio? I mean, I'm sure that it's more heavy on the women, but what's your ratio for, you know, women and men writers?
You know, years ago it was more women. I had just a couple male romance writers and a couple that I didn't even know were men. My favorite story is when I called a woman named Robin, and her voice was deeper than, you know, my father's. And she says, yeah, I write under a woman's name because women don't usually want to read romances by men. But anyway, but nowadays I'd say 75-25. I probably have 25% men. Men are very good sellers usually. I don't know if it's because they like to talk about themselves more than us women do. That's a very biased thing to say, but I find my male authors have no problem getting out there and saying, you know, look at me, look at my book, and you need my book, whereas where a lot of women are a little bit quieter about that. But I have some Stephen King, not the Stephen King, another one in Australia. He sells very well. I have a Randy Overbeck who sells very well. Kevin Simmons out of Cape Cod. The Stephen King thing, some of you may have realized on my site, there's an Australia wildfires charity. Back before COVID hit, we were all talking about Australia wildfires. And we did this series of 3 books, 3 anthologies with all the proceeds going to Australia. And Stephen kind of spearheaded that whole thing up. So that was a fun project to do. Seems like a lifetime ago when we were worried about the koala bears.
Yes, those were heartbreaking photos with the little koala bears burning their little paws. That's
now they've all got COVID.
Yeah. So tell us about your readers. What can you tell us about your readers? You know, for these past, 6 months, do you find that they're reading more, buying more?
So
what's happening with the readers?
Here's the reality with readers, and I'm sure as writers you know this. There's too much free stuff out there. You know, the more authors that put their books up for free, the less we have readers that are going to buy books. So similar to the music industry years ago when you could download everything for free, authors, there's too many writers that just throw a book up there for free, and readers download them. So sales do not increase because there's just too much free stuff. That's the frank bottom line.
So does that make your book, does that mean that you then have to bring your prices down?
Well, I don't think it matters because you can't come down to zero. And so you've got the readers out there that are willing to pay because they want to read who they want to read. And there's still those readers, which are wonderful. But then you've got readers out there that they don't really care as long as they don't have to pay for it. So unfortunately, that's the world we're in right now in publishing is the writers that continue to work hard to write a book only to put it out there for nothing. They frustrate me. Can you tell? I mean, I don't care if you're self-published or published with a company. My thing is, you've spent months on this book. You've spent blood, sweat, and tears on this book. Why are you giving the milk away? You know, why? Just because you want someone to read it and tell you, yay, good job. So, yeah, it's a little rant. Sorry.
No, it's valid. It's valid.
I have, you know, in talking about self-publishing, I have no issue with self-publishing. I think self-publishing, there's never been a better time to be an author, right? You can publish anything, anywhere that you want. But my caution is, don't put your name on something that's a piece of crap, right? So if I put a book out there with my name on it, and it's full of typos, and it's a horrible story, and it really is not very good, nobody's going to buy my second book. You know, they may buy that first one, but they're never going to buy the second one. So if you're going to self-publish, do it properly. You know, you can do it yourself if you have some technical skills, but make sure it's edited properly. Make sure that, you know, it's the best it can be with your name on it.
And is that where you got the idea for, what's it called? The right advice?
The right advice came about because we had writers coming to us who said, can you recommend an editor? Can you recommend an artist? And, you know, our folks are busy, you know, but they'll take a side job, you know, if they need to. And I also have people in the industry that I can turn to. And so it kind of came out of that. I said to RJ, I said, there might be something in this because there's writers out there that want to self-publish, but they don't have a clue how to do it. So, you know, maybe we put up a division and see if we can, you know, get a piece of that pie and help them at the same time.
No, it's true, because sometimes it's a lot. You know, you don't realize when you're going to self-publish that you are basically now your own publishing house.
Right.
You know?
You gotta do it
and
all.
if you want to write and you don't want to edit and copy and do this and do that, and somebody else needs to take that on.
Right.
And with the right advice, it sounds great because I just have to go and do my shopping with you and I'm done.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. And you know that they're vetted. They're people, they're professionals. They're not just somebody you found through a friend. You know that they're, you know, they do a good job.
Very good. Do we have any other questions?
Okay, there are a couple that were skipped in the chats. Someone asked about someone asked about inspirational and sweet romances, and then another one asked about romantic comedies and historical romantic comedies.
Wow. Okay, so inspirational, I'll start with first. We do not do inspirational romance or fiction. We spun that division off years and years ago to a company called, if you do White Rose Publishing, you'll find her. I think it's Pelican is her name. It's not Pelican Books, it's a different division. We do sweet romance, thinking about the Hallmark movies type of romance. In our Sweetheart line, we do those. And we have a lot of women's fiction that are technically sweet. There's no sex in those. Romantic comedies, I think, are wonderful if you can do it properly. There's nothing less funny than somebody trying to be funny. We've all met people who are just naturally hysterical, and those stories are wonderful. And there's always a market for them. Yeah, I think historical comedy, I think that even in my years, I think I've read a couple that have some pretty funny lines in them. So I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Okay, and someone asked for your book publishing service. I'm not sure if they mean
the right advice.
The right advice or
Okay.
your regular, but do you offer promotional services?
Yeah, so in the traditional side, Lisa Dawn is our marketing director. And with every publishing house these days, you, the author, do 99% of the marketing. We market and promote the company. You promote yourself and your books. We have a lot of opportunities for cooperation where authors help promote each other. And like I said, with the One Scoop or Two series, they did an ice cream hop across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook this year. And they did a whole, you know, a hop where they went to each other's sites and they talked about their different books. On the right advice side, I believe all we offer is a 1-hour consultation with Lisa, that somebody can talk to her about marketing ideas and how do I get started and what's the best social media to use, and she'll talk to them on the phone for about an hour.
Very good.
Marketing is always the biggest question people have, and we do several chats a year on marketing ideas and marketing discussions.
Just for your authors, or is it
Nope,
open?
It's always open to the public. The chat is always open to the public. It's every Tuesday at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Ursula?
How do you tune into those chats if you, I mean, do we go to your website and it's
Yeah,
there?
so on the website, there should be a tab that says events. And then in that tab, it should say open chat or weekly chat or something like that.
Okay, good.
Okay, it says weekly free chat room.
Yeah, so it's free every week except these 4 in August that we were doing the special grammar series.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more questions?
There's one here from Jean. So for the
Okay.
children's books, Jean, we do have, I have an illustrator who is always pretty busy. I recommend him because he does wonderful work, but he's usually pretty busy. He's really the only one I know. So usually the children's books come in already illustrated.
Okay. That's interesting to know.
Yeah, I have a great, he's so good. I mean, he can draw like where the wild things are. I mean, he draws phenomenal, but he's always busy.
Okay, I'm scrolling through because there was a question that was missed. Oh, with no advance, what's the royalty rate?
Okay, so our royalty rates are industry competitive, and of course they're confidential until you get a contract, but they're pretty much where most of the small publishers are today. I know, non-answer, but I can't discuss the contract, it's confidential.
Okay. And you said the foreign rights, and you take all the rights for 5 years.
Yeah,
and
for
then
5
after-
years.
Okay.
And then at 5 years, the authors can ask for the rights back, or we do an annual renewal every year. It's just automatic.
Okay.
Okay, I also wanted to mention, I also want to mention that the editors, at least I know my editor, very nice. And the last, yes, it's the last book I wrote. I submitted it. I gave it to her. We're in the middle of edits, and then all of a sudden I said, I don't like the ending. And I give her credit. She did not show up at my door with a baseball bat.
She just said, okay, Ursula, whatever you want.
Yes, so I really enjoyed working with them also. This is an award-winning company.
I've got my golden apple.
Yes.
From New York.
The authors, there is the, what is it, the
Editors and
International.
We have the editors and predators. They have a poll every year of readers and writers, and we've won for 12 of the 14 years.
Yes.
So.
And then a lot of the authors, I can't remember the name of the contest off the top of my head, but we have a lot of authors who final in that. I came in 5th one year, and we've had 2 reader finalists.
We have. And we actually have a movie that we're pretty excited about. So a year ago, maybe 2 years now, we were contacted by a production company. They wanted a writer to write a story that they could produce and film. And so Shadowheart Curse was written by our author. Oh my God, I can't remember her name. I just drew a blank. But anyways, she's wrote the book. Here it is, Carolyn Bentley. And they started the movie production in Italy in March. So that's what happened to the movie. So that's all on hold right now, but we were pretty excited by it. It was supposed to come out on Amazon's movie things, the Prime. And when things get up and running, that'll happen again. So that was kind of our exciting thing 2 years ago. We're waiting for that to all kick back in.
Oh, that would have been something, being quarantined in Italy.
Yes, yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Our luck, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now we do have one final question about
Sure.
audiobooks.
Yep. So audiobooks are wonderful, and audiobooks are the new thing, and audiobooks are what everybody wants, and audiobooks cost the earth to produce. So they're very, very expensive. We have tried many different ways to do audiobooks inexpensively, and the only way we can do it is through ACX, which is part of Amazon. And now, because they don't sell as well, the royalty share that we were using through Amazon is not happening anymore. So we are not working too much with audiobooks. I have talked to narrators. They charge a fortune to narrate books. And we don't have the budget. Most of my authors don't have the budget. So we're very frustrated with the whole audio situation. We continue to try different ways to get around this. We have a couple narrators who have worked with us for royalty share, which means there's no upfront costs for the author or us. But very few narrators will work that way. They want to be paid for their production time, which I can't blame them, but it doesn't help us get these books out.
Because it must take I guess if a narrated book is 7 hours, give or take, that's like probably another 2, if not 3 in production and getting ready and practicing and rehearsals and
right.
Yeah, so that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, I mean, narrators can make good money if they can find authors to pay or publishers that have deep pockets that can pay for it. But, we were doing really good with ACX, and then Amazon, like everything, once somebody's doing good, they slap that down. So right now what we're doing is we're not taking audio rights. Your contract doesn't have it in it, but if you want to work with us, we try our best to find you somebody and to try to get the book into audio. But usually there's a cost involved.
Okay.
Very frustrating because the more I hear about audiobooks all the time as well as everybody else, but I just can't seem to get in there.
Yeah. No, because it seems to be a field that's getting bigger.
Yes, it is.
I mean, everyone, there's so many books out now that
we do have a few authors who are doing their own, which is good. They've set up a little production studio in their closet or whatever, and then we help them, distribute them. But again, a lot of times they have to go through ACX, and you have to pass the quality control tests, and they don't make it easy for anyone else to make money.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Oh, I was
And
thrilled.
then we had a prize. So you have a winner. Do you have everybody?
Jean, Find Away Voices we've worked with as well. We do have a rep in there, so we have worked with them. They do some stuff for us. But I've got a little door prize, so I put everybody's name in here. I think I've got everybody. And I'm going to just, I'm going to pull them all out. They're all folded, and I'm just going to grab one. All right, who is this? Ursula, look at that. That's rigged.
Can't win. She's the president. Move on.
All right. You can't win?
No, she can't win.
All right. Okay. Let's see. If I draw another Ursula, and I rigged it, right? Barbara.
Oh, hi, thank you.
Okay, can you get me your physical address? Either email it to me or get it to Ursula to give to me, and I'll mail it out to you.
Wonderful, thank you much.
Thank you. Well, this was fun, ladies. I hope you learned a lot about the Wild Rose Press. I learned a lot about the Wild Rose Press and some things I need to work on, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. I like the feedback. It's always helpful. I have missed conferences.
Well, we'll have to invite you every quarter.
Well, there you go. That would be lovely. Maybe, I get a couple of my other editors so you can see somebody else's face besides mine and get a different feed, or what am I trying to say? Opinion.
Absolutely. That sounds very
Rhonda,
good.
I sent it over the chat. I sent my address over the chat, Rhonda.
Oh, sure. That sounds great.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, don't forget, because Rhonda has mentioned it several times, the Wild Rose Press has weekly chats on Tuesdays starting at 8 p.m. Like she said, for this month, you have to pay, but they're starting again in September. They're free, and I highly recommend them.
And if you want to come to the one next Tuesday, that's still $5. You could just, there's a link on our website you can pay. And if you pay for each of them, you can get the transcript from all of them if you're interested. So, but after that, after next Tuesday, they're back to being free.
Perfect. Well, take care of yourself. You know,
Thank you.
be
You too.
careful, stay safe,
Okay.
you know,
Maybe
and
we'll
give
get
our
together.
regards to the whole Wild Rose Press family.
I will. And thank you, ladies. Maybe we can get together for lunch at some point next year.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We really
Yes.
appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Rhonda.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right,
Have a
bye.
good night, everyone.
Take care.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.